Pakistan's armed forces have disclosed details of Operation Bunyanum Marsoos launched in response to India's airspace violation and missile strikes that began on the night of May 6 and 7. The attacks resulted in the deaths of innocent civilians including women, children and the elderly and caused minor damage to one Pakistani aircraft. At a joint press conference, Pakistan Army spokesperson Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhry, Air Vice Marshal Aurangzeb Ahmed and Vice Admiral Raja Nawaz shared a comprehensive breakdown of Pakistan's retaliatory operation. General Chaudhry stated that 26 military targets were struck across Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and mainland India. These included Air Force and aviation bases at Suratgarh, Sirsa, Adampur, Bhuj, Nalia, Bathinda, Barnala, Halwara, Avantipura, Srinagar, Jammu, Mamoon, Ambala, Udhampur and Pathankot, all of which sustained significant damage. BrahMos missile facilities, which had been used to target Pakistani territory, were also destroyed. He described the response as a textbook demonstration of tri-service integration enabled by real-time situational awareness, network-centric warfare, and multi-domain coordination.
We extend our heartfelt gratitude to every officer, soldier, airman, and sailor of the armed forces of Pakistan who made this success on the battlefield possible through their courage, professionalism, and sacrifice. The armed forces of Pakistan express their profound appreciation and gratitude to the brave Pakistani nation whose moral strength, resolve, and above all, wholehearted support and prayers remained unwaveringly with us during these testing times, which became a force multiplier for the armed forces of Pakistan. We are specially indebted to the youth of Pakistan, who became the frontline soldiers as information and cyber warriors of the country. Profound thanks are also due to you, the vibrant media of Pakistan, who also stood like Bunyanum Marsoos, a steel wall against the Indian media information blitz and fuming as well as warmongering done by the Indian media. We are extremely grateful to the political leadership of all political parties without any distinction for the unified resolve in support of their armed forces for the defense of our motherland. The armed forces are specifically grateful to the inspiring leadership of the Prime Minister of Pakistan and his cabinet ministers for taking destiny-changing decisions of the country and steering it through this critical situation. Let me share now the operational details of Operation Bunyanum Marsoos. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan's response was a textbook demonstration of integrated tri-services jointness enabled by real-time situational awareness, network-centric warfare capabilities, and seamless multi-domain operations. This synergy across air, land, sea, and cyber domains allowed for precision engagements, overwhelming lethality, and rapid tempo. All platforms operated in synergy, delivering coordinated effects at carefully selected decisive points. Using precision-guided long-range Fateh series missiles F-1 and F-2 of Pakistan Army, precision munitions of Pakistan Air Force, highly capable long-range loitering killer munitions, and precision long-range artillery. 26 military targets as well as facilities that were used to target Pakistani citizens and those enterprises that were responsible for fomenting terrorism in Pakistan were engaged in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and also mainland India. The targets included Air Force and aviation bases at Suratgarh, Sirsa, Bhuj, Nalia, Adampur, Bathinda, Barnala, Halwara, Avantipura, Srinagar, Jammu, Udhampur, Mamoon, Ambala and Pathankot, which all sustained major damages. BrahMos storage facilities at Beas and Nagrota were also destroyed, which had fired missiles on Pakistan, killing innocent civilians, our flower-like children, our ladies and our elderly. S-400 battery system at Adampur and Bhuj was also attacked by our proud Pakistan Air Force. Military logistic and support sites which helped sustain this unlawful operation against innocent Pakistani civilians, like Field Supply Depot at Uri and Radar Station at Poonch, were also targeted. Military Command Headquarters, which helped plan the operational killing of our innocent citizens, especially the children, including 10th Brigade and 80 Brigade at KG Top and Nushaira, were also destroyed. Facilities which harbor, train and capacitate proxy elements that perpetrate terrorist attacks inside Pakistan, which kill innocent civilians, were specifically identified and destroyed. These include Intelligence Fusion Support Units and its forward field elements at Rajouri and Nushaira. Across the line of control, military elements including headquarters, logistic bases, artillery position and posts that had caused civilian casualties in Azad Jammu and Kashmir through unprovoked artillery and small arms fire were relentlessly targeted and heavily damaged until they raised white flags and asked for restraint. India used drones to violate Pakistani airspace to intimidate our civilians and spread fear. All through Operation Bunyanum Marsoos, dozens of Pakistani armed drones hovered over Indian major cities and sensitive political and government facilities, including their capital, New Delhi. And from Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir all the way up to Gujarat, to manifest clearly our lethal long-range unmanned capability, to indicate the futility of the use of this domain in warfare. Pakistan Armed Forces also carried out comprehensive and effective cyber offensive to temporarily cripple and degrade critical infrastructure and services that were being used by Indian Armed Forces to sustain their operations. Let me tell you that Pakistan Armed Forces possess an adequate suite of very sophisticated niche military technologies, only some of which were used with restraint in this conflict, and there are many more such capabilities being kept as future surprises. Despite all this, let me say that compared to Indian relentless provocations, Pakistan's military response has been precise, proportionate, and still remarkably restrained. It was carefully calibrated to avoid civilian casualties and has exclusively targeted those entities and facilities which were directly involved in orchestrating and executing cold-blooded killings of Pakistani civilians and those carrying out terrorist attacks inside Pakistan. We must also inform you that Pakistan also sustained an abnormal and immediate spike in Indian-sponsored terrorism across Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan while we were busy in operations on the Eastern Front. This vindicates that India is directly involved in fomenting terrorism in Pakistan, and its proxies were fully operationalized during this time to distract our attention. Pakistan Armed Forces are resilient, and simultaneously with the conduct of Operation Bunyanum Marsoos, we carried out most effective counter-terrorism operations in the western region without any pause. Operation Bunyanum Marsoos has been a great example of coming together of all elements of national power with overwhelming support of Pakistani public to effectively counter the threat to our national sovereignty and integrity and the threat to our great motherland. No one should have any doubt that whenever our sovereignty would be threatened and territorial integrity violated, the response would be comprehensive, retributive, and decisive. Pakistan Armed Forces thank and salute the Pakistani nation for its courage, resilience, and national fervor during this conflict.
Air Vice Marshal Aurangzeb said the Pakistan Air Force responded at a time and place of its own choosing, showcasing boldness and clarity of military leadership. He noted that the PAF executed the largest operational strike package since 1971, targeting maximum IAF airfields while deliberately avoiding civilian areas.
I'll pick up from where I left day before yesterday. PAF versus IF, 6-0. The PF's response has strengthened Pakistan's national security, alhamdulillah. And it has even strengthened our commitment, the enduring commitment the PF has for stability and peace. But I have no doubt, and I can say with assurances, that the real genius and the mastermind, the cerebrum behind the design and the aim and the structure, the game plan of PF was the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Ahmed. He asked us to do 3 things in our response: re-establish deterrence, neutralize key threats, retain control of air. And I will show you in my presentation how we try to do that. Slide. During the befitting response that we generated in our first episode, we attrited IF's pride, the Rafales, resulting in this entire fleet almost coming to a standstill, a ground position. You could see that they were not flying after that, at least not close to their western border. This reduction in flying to bare minimum actually reduced their liberty of action. They curtailed their options. Slide. This is the Pakistan's air defense environment. Pakistan air defense environment is offensive, it's integrated, it's credible. And I'll show you. IF initiated having no space with their manned aircraft. They initiated with their unmanned aircraft operations, targeting Pakistan's civilian population and their infrastructure. Here you see all these spots all across the swath of drones and UAVs who are coming inside our territory, which is being picked up by all our radars from the moment they were entering, even before that. Slide. Now, PF's air defense environment is suitably configured to detect enemies' low RCS radar cross-section, high and slow speed platforms. That you can see that they are all visible by the time they are entering. Slide. So the anti-drone systems of Pakistan Air Force and Pakistan Army also and Navy, they rendered the enemy US drones attacks ineffective by spoofing, jamming, and making their systems rendering them unserviceable. Slide. All drones with low cross section also were detected, rendered useless through utilization of the indigenous GPS jamming systems that we have, the data and the SATCOM link denial that we created through our indigenous systems that we have made ourselves. So whenever those systems were attacked with the soft kill, they had their error induced into the GPSs and they were going haywire. And whenever they were coming to closer to any civil population or civil area of high value, a direct or a hot kill was achieved on them. Slide. So here you can see they were neutralized mid-air with the hard kill whenever they were coming close to any population or any area. Being in a sparsely populated area, they were left all alone and they were applied with the soft kill.
Vice Admiral Nawaz added that the Pakistan Navy monitored India's INS Vikrant closely as it approached within 400 nautical miles of Karachi before retreating. He stated that the Navy's maritime air arm was on high alert and ready to respond to any aggression from the sea.
And this is essentially the Indian Navy surface disposition throughout these days. They had a couple of ships in this particular area. They were moving around in this area. Another ship off Salala, which was operating over there. And this is the much talked about the Indian carrier. We were monitoring it right from the day one. On 30th of April, it was here. Then it moved up here. Subsequently, it moved up here. And on the night of 6th and 7th May, it was back, close to Ratnagiri, very close to Mumbai. And then on 9th May, it was here, essentially 400 nautical miles away from Pakistani coast. And again, then it retreated back close to Mumbai. So we were keeping a very close track on this particular carrier movement. And there was no cause of concern at any time. If the carrier comes closer to 400 nautical miles and even closer, that essentially simplifies our problem. So we were the Pakistan Navy Maritime Air Arm in coordination with the strike component of Pakistan Air Force. They were cockpit ready to generate any kind of response at that time, at all times. And I was in constant communication with the Deputy Chief of Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Aurangzeb at all times, and we were just ready. If there is any aggression from the sea, we were there to respond effectively. And let me say another thing. That is, you know about the carriers, you have seen them in the movies, but as a professional military officer, I don't want to underestimate the enemy, but let's put the things in the right perspective. The INS Vikrant and the carrier, the Western carrier, there's a huge difference. This is an aircraft carrier which essentially sailed with 8 to 12 MiG-29s, which was barely essential to carry out its own air defense. The purpose of the carrier is power projection and to ensure air superiority in a given sea area. So with this, let's set the battle. This is simply not possible, and the Indian Navy exactly knew this, and that is precisely why on the 9th of 6th and 7th, when they carried out this cowardly attack on the civilians, they moved this carrier to the safety of their own coast, well away from Pakistan's strike capability, close to this Ratnagiri area. And again, on the night of 9th and 10th, it was moved very close to the Mumbai. It was essentially 17 to 20 nautical miles off Mumbai. But we were keeping a track. We were fully aware of their movements in this area, and we were always ready to generate a response in coordination with the Air Force, especially in case of the aircraft carrier. Subsurface elements, the offensive element, they were offensively deployed. They were in their respective areas and ready to generate a response. And also, you might have seen this footage. We were not only in the surface domain, but we were essentially effectively monitoring their air surveillance things. And because of the operation security reason, I'll not talk much about how we did that, but we were keeping an eye on this particular activity as well.
Pakistan's military also paid tribute to the martyrs of Indian aggression and their families and praised the armed forces, the media, the youth and political leadership for their support during the crisis. Responding to a question about who first requested for the ceasefire, the DG-ISPR said, put it on record that Pakistan never requested for a ceasefire. He warned that there is no space for war between the two nuclear-armed nations, saying anyone attempting to create that space is paving the way for mutual annihilation. Meanwhile, Indian military officers said that the objectives of Operation Sindoor were achieved with high-value terrorists being eliminated, but dodged a question whether they had lost a bunch of warplanes in the operation. The officers speaking at a press conference provided key details on Operation Sindoor, its impact and results. Air Marshal A.K. Bharti, DGMO, Lieutenant General Rajiv Ghai, Major General S.S. Sharma and Vice Admiral A.N. Pramod addressed the press. Responding to reports that Rafale fighter jets were downed, Air Marshal A.K. Bharti did not confirm or deny the claim, stating instead that losses are a part of any combat scenario.